Ooh,
And we went. And
yeah,
we
we're
went.
live.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Gary. Welcome to session two of.
Welcome to this experiment that we're doing. Welcome to
Yeah, what are we actually calling it? So I know, and I keep telling Gary this all the time. I feel it. Some days, Gary and I are going to do something amazing. And I know this is going to be amazing.
this is how it starts. These lives.
And so, welcome everybody. Welcome to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm not sure where else we're gonna push this out. And but we want to say thanks for being here today, and thanks for joining in, and thanks for all of the feedback we gotten for session one. Um, Gary and I are really excited. And but before we get going, everybody probably knows me, and the better half on this thing here is Gary. So, Gary, give everybody the 2 minute cliff note who you are.
The better half, please. My name is Gary Montalvo. I am a leadership and business coach. I work with heart-centered entrepreneurs and empowering them to make sure that they're bringing leadership to their business. And when I say leadership, I mean self-leadership. What are the areas that you are avoiding, or that you don't have clarity around, that you don't have focus around, that you don't have strategy around? This entrepreneurial game is a hustle, right? It's challenging, and so we need people to support us in looking at our blind spots and helping us implement systems that perhaps we would take us a lot longer to do ourselves. So yeah, so I'm really passionate about working with entrepreneurs because they're game changers. They make an impact on the planet, right? They don't just
Mhm.
keep it for themselves. They always go and magnify, amplify the impact with their families, their communities, their clients, their their cities. So yeah, so it's always a pleasure working with you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. And so, everybody knows me, but if you guys don't know the story, a few weeks ago, we reached out to Gary and said, we want you on our podcast. And in Gary fashion, he played hard to get. So, we got him on
You
our
better stop
podcast.
it.
So, we had him on our podcast. And we also learned that we meet somebody for three reasons: that we need to learn from them, we need to collaborate with them, or we need to build something with them. And so a few weeks after that, I reached out to Gary and I said, Gary, listen, I absolutely love being on your podcast. He was on my podcast. I said, I feel like we need to do something together. And he said, you know what? August is a little slow for me and my clients. They are away. And I said, we need to do something. So we started this 4 week series on the days week 2 of the 4. And we sharing not just what we feel the industry needs. We want to share here the things we have learned and we absolutely know will set any entrepreneur, any business owner on fire and get you going. So we getting together and said, hey, let's make a little theme for every week and let's just share it what we have learned. And what we wanted to share today is something actually Gary is really, really passionate about. I'm trying to be as passionate as he is about it, but he's absolutely true. He always calls it, Christian, we need to get our clients to kill the comfort because discomfort is a business strategy. And I absolutely love that. And as we started talking about that, we said, oh, we need to make this episode 2. And so today on episode 2 is let's kill the comfort. You know what? Discomfort. And not just make it a strategy. Let's make it a business strategy. Because every high performer knows that they are not just coasting. Every entrepreneur who is busy but not bold, and the executive who's successful but not stretched. So if you feel like we're talking about you, I know every time I say this, I talk about me, and I learn so much about these conversations with Gary and when we kind of go through it. So if your impact doesn't bring you the return of investment you're asking the industry for, but you crave meaning, movement, and momentum, then you are at the right episode today. Because today we're going to talk about a few things: how to comfort or kill comfort and make it your edge. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the strategy of discomfort, and that's really growth. And I absolutely love that. And then we have a little giveaway. So if you stay to the end, we have a little giveaway. And with that, I want to say thanks for being here today for session 2 of 4. And if you haven't done so, please like this episode, share it with somebody who you know needs this. And you know what? Sometimes the things which annoy us the most about anything is what we need most. And so, Gary, thanks for being here with me
My
today.
pleasure. My pleasure. And I want to expand a little bit on that because, the brain can be kind of tricky. It can play tricks on us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think no one would say, "Hey, is being in your comfort zone good?" Right? Or no one would get up in the morning and say, "Oh no, I want to stay in my comfort zone. I'm perfectly fine." Like we know intellectually that that doesn't work, right? We know intellectually, especially if you are already in the game of starting a business, you've probably figured out pretty quickly that you're going to have to step in to areas that you're not comfortable with. So, we're not just, when we talk about comfort zone, we're not just talking about like, oh, let me pick up the phone and do a sales call, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like the obvious areas of discomfort. Oh, let me start going live or posting on social media or marketing myself differently, or let me sign up to be a speaker. Like there's these ways that are pretty in our face when we
Yeah.
talk about discomfort. But there's when we talk about comfort, there's all these ways that I think are hidden from you. So you got to think about it. It's like whatever your routine in life is, that becomes a comfort zone. The road you take to drive to work, the store that you stop at every day because it's familiar, the books that you're reading because they're familiar, the people that we hang out with, the hobbies, the things that we do. I want you to consider that all of those things, the type of workouts that you do, the type of places you travel to, right? Um, all of those things, if you look, they fall into some
Love
type
that.
of comfort zone, some
I
type of
love that.
familiarity for you. And so it's just how the brain is designed. The brain likes predictability. The brain likes to understand what's happening. And if your brain doesn't have to spend too much time trying to do math to figure out what's happening, it can divert those resources to other places to make you breathe and work your body. So your brain is one of the ways that your brain manages energy and resources is by looking for familiar things. So it's not you. It's just part of being a human, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, and the more inflexible that we are about those structures that we've created around us to create predictability,
Yeah.
the more inflexible we are when it comes time to do the growth of the business, the stretching to the looking for new strategies, the looking for new the learning new skill sets. All of those things are going to force you. So if you don't have that muscle worked out, you're just going to struggle more. It's just the
Yeah.
bottom line, right? So I wanted to have that because I wanted to expand that because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want you to listen to this conversation from your comfort zone, which means, oh, I already know this, right? Like, oh yeah, no, I know. Oh, comfort zone, yeah, Christian, I got this. Really, I've heard this. I read a book once about this. Like, I'm good. No,
Yeah.
like
I,
I
I
want you to
probably
really
read
invite
three
you to look.
quarters. I read 3/4 of the first chapter. I knew it all. I
Yeah.
didn't know exactly where they were going.
Yeah. Yeah. So you really should be listening to this conversation inside of like, what are all the ways in my life in which I create habitual patterns, right? What are all the ways in my life in which I create predictability? And sometimes that predictability is like inside of friction. Like if you look, there's systems in your business that create friction all the time, but it's what you know. right? You it's how you've always done it, but every time you have to do it, you go, oh, now I got to
Yeah.
spend extra time, or oh, like there's all these ways that we leak energy out
Hmm.
because we're inside of comfort zones that no longer serve our growth and the strategy of where the business is going.
I,
So
I I absolutely love that. Thank you. Because there's a few things which you kind of hit on, because I was guilty of that too. We spend so much time designing comfort for our business, and I mean it, because we create those scalable systems. We create predictable funnels, workflows. We know they all work, but the problem is, does comfort build real greatness? And it doesn't. So for me, what I absolutely love about what you just said, because comfort really protects what is in the past. Discomfort builds what's coming. And what we want to talk to you today is about something that most entrepreneurs run from, and it's the whole discomfort on purpose, and especially using it as a business strategy. I love what you always say, that you need to kill comfort. And it took me a long time to realize, what does that actually mean, because I was in my comfort. And because everything you want is on the other side of a conversation you're avoiding. Everything you want is on the other side of the risk you're delaying. And everything you want is on the other side of a decision you're overthinking. And for me, as we talked about this and I charted down some thoughts, I on purpose wanted to not live in discomfort, because we're doing all out of history. And for me, there's a little giveaway, by the way, for everybody. Don't take notes if you're driving or anything else. Just write on the bottom that you're ready to kill comfort, and we send you a little worksheet Gary and I created, because there's one thing we have in there, and that's for us. What is comfort zone? And when somebody tells me, hey, I need to recharge, I need to reflect, I need to regroup, for me, that shows me that they're in that. And how to get out of it is what I need to ask myself. What is working really, really well in whatever I do? Where am I seeing result? And what's bringing me peace or pride or whatever I want to do in that? And for me, that's the greatest thing about that. And um, Gary, if you don't mind, can you talk to us a little bit the way you look about, comfort is killing your edge. That's something you always talk about. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you mean by that, and how people can not just kind of move their stuff around, but have a new way of looking at things and having a new way of arming themselves um, to kill discomfort?
yeah. Yeah, there's all these subtle ways that it shows up, like I'm thinking of one of my consulting clients. Very early on in our engagement, my job is to poke the holes and start looking around and lift the furniture and start to, so very quickly I started to, I'm seeing this is a
Yeah,
company that had a lot of fast growth in a very short period of time. So when that happens, you just don't have any systems, right? Like you're just
mm,
flying by the seat of your pants, figuring it out because you're just trying to keep up with the demand. It's a great problem to have. Um, so one of the things that I first noticed right away was like, hey, these guys don't have a marketing team. Like they're literally doing all the marketing themselves. And so I approached them about this problem. I say, hey, we need to get a copywriter in here. We need to start getting a marketing. You guys can't keep holding on. Just speaking to the founders. And they immediately push back and say, oh, no,
yeah,
no, it has to come from our voice. It has to, a copywriter can't write the copy like
yeah,
we could write it. It has to come from our voice. That was their comfort zone. They did it and they were good at it, right? And they could write the copy. It doesn't mean you should do it though. It doesn't mean that that's the right thing for you to do. And so it was a way that it was such a time suck for them but because it was familiar and because it was something that they and it had worked, they had crossed $100 million in sales, so they were remarkably
Yeah.
doing well. But now it was chaos because you can't have the founders and the CEOs of $100 million company writing copy,
Yeah.
right? Um, I think of another client, a dance studio. Um, the again, they she hadn't really recuperated from COVID, and so she, brought me in to help her get her enrollment up. And immediately, what you can see is that this is a person who's single-handedly doing everything in the company.
Mm.
She is holding all the decision making. Everybody's coming to her to ask her for every little detail. Where do we put this chair? Where do we, like, how do we, what volume do you want for the music? Like stuff that at this point she should not be holding on to. And so there were all these low hanging fruits that she could activate to immediately increase sales, right?
Yeah.
But she doesn't have the capacity because everybody's operating inside of their comfort zone in her team and her with what's familiar, with what they've known before. Immediately, we started to create different structures, create, delegate, and now everybody's in a new comfort zone. Everybody's now risking because now you have new responsibilities. I have to let go control of something that I've always controlled. I have to now start teaching you how to
Hmm.
execute your responsibilities versus giving you my orders. Immediately, everyone was outside of the comfort zone. And here's the thing, they were all actually excited by it. They
Yeah.
just needed to understand that they were operating inside of a box, right? So
Hmm.
stepping outside of your box is not always bad. It's not always scary. It's not always, it doesn't have to look like you leaping off a building. It literally can just look like you disrupting patterns and
Hmm.
asking thoughtful questions and delegating things that you wouldn't normally delegate and holding people accountable when you normally would just go, oh, let me just do that myself.
Yeah.
For me, one of the I would just want to share this personally. One of the ways that I took myself out of the box many years ago when I was developing myself as a speaker, I signed up for a singing class.
Mm.
And I was working with a singing coach, with a voice coach. And part of this 12-week process of working with this voice coach was I was going to be on stage at the Cotton Club in New York City with a live band behind me singing a few songs. Like I was going to be doing a live show.
Yeah.
I have no I have a fine voice. I'm not gonna be auditioning for American Idol anytime soon. I have no ambitions of being a professional singer, but this scared the crap out of me. It made my butt cheeks clench, right? And it put me in a situation where I had to learn a new skill set and risk,
Hmm.
right? So the only reason I took that on was to have that experience. Now
Love
it also helps me because it's gonna help me with my stage presence. So it's related to the things that I am up to in my life. But the only reason I did that was to give me the experience of being scared and doing it and mastering that, right? And doing it anyway. So there's all these ways that we can do things like this to work that muscle of
them.
stepping outside of our comfort zone and taking risk.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. And for me, as you were talking, so many things went through my mind. And for me, the hardest thing of all of that is, and we constantly talking about this, is that there's that. comfort zone, if you want to call it. And then we also have something we call the courage zone. And for me, that's all about playing bigger. And, playing bigger feels uncomfortable. So, what you talked to me about kind of brought me into what I want to talk about with session two is that courage zone. Because for me, all of this kind of goes, I don't want to say hand in hand, but it does. So, now this is to our listeners out there. What if I told you that what you really want or what is standing between you and the breakthrough, what you really want, or the breakthrough where you want your business to go, is a single decision you have been avoiding for weeks? And for me, let me tell you my little thing. I work for this amazing company as the chief culinary officer. I loved what I did. I didn't like who I did it for. And for me, for the longest time, I was kind of avoiding having that conversation, avoiding making a decision, avoiding what we talking about here. And for me, I call it, for lack of better words, the courage zone. And I was sitting there and I found myself to be miserable because I loved what I did, but I felt I made no impact. And for me, having the conversation with the leadership and say, this is not who I am. This is not what I feel I'm here for. And this is not how I can provide real value to you and to the organization. And it was a hard decision, but for me, what opened up afterwards, now when I think back and as I heard you talk, Gary, this came to mind and I wanted to share this here because for me, if you in any kind of leadership, and I think everybody's a leader, if you have nobody reporting to you in the leadership, and I love what you talk about, Gary, you constantly talk about self-leadership, because you are facing double the price, you terrified of a client or in a job, whatever it is, but you also need to be honest of who you are. And for me, the reason I call this the courage zone, because if you make a decision, you need to make, or if you have to have a conversation, you need to have. For me, that's the real impact. And you and I talk about this a lot. Having those difficult conversations, sometimes it's not difficult for the other person, it's for you to start that conversation. And the reason I want to call this the comfort zone, because we all need a Gary in our life. And having somebody which I know is looking out for me, knowing somebody who is coaching me through this is the most powerful thing with that. And I honestly believe we are not meant to be here on our own. We meant to share. We meant to be part of something. We meant to do something together. That South African proverb, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go with a group. I honestly feel that's what we're here for. And real leadership, real entrepreneurship takes more people. And there's one more story I want to tell you that. For me, now as you talked about this, where this came up, I started my little companies and I always worked on my own. The very first time I hired somebody and they were here with me in the office, it made all the difference. I was more alert. I felt more in tune of what we want to do. I was more customer focused. She's absolutely amazing, in what she does. For me, I honestly feel we need to do this on our own. And I'm encouraging what Gary is really, 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 really good at is for you to bring you out of that comfort zone, to kill comfort. And, Gary, you always talk about it. So I know this was a little plug of you, Gary, but I think you're really, really good at it. And I sincerely mean that. And we all need somebody who sees in us what we don't see in ourselves. And that's for me the greatest thing. And that's why I'm so excited about doing this with you, Gary, because you're really good at it. And it's not just because you're my friend. I think you're really fucking good at it. Okay. And so for me, that's the greatest thing. And the reason we're talking about discomfort zone, and whatever you want to call the other zones. I don't think there's really, for me now when I go, like I said, there's really only two zones, but we have the three zones: the courage zone we just talked about, and then the chaos zone. And you talk about that's where we innovated, where we become innovative, where we experiment, where we embrace uncertainty. So can you talk to us a little bit? Maybe, how about, I like when you tell stories, you're good at it. Hey, what if you would break the rules? And that's to our listeners. If you would break the rules, if you would do what has never been done before, what wild ideas deserve a test of time or a test drive? Because for me, when we go back, and I'm guilty of that, and we talk about this all the time, is calling from history. And I'm a big guy in history. You know, I live in a 250-year-old house because I love history. But history doesn't predict who you are. And so use history, as a tool, and don't live in it. Because for me, that's where, for me, I found a lot of my comfort stuck. And that's where I was stuck. Hey, we used to do this all the time. It worked. It doesn't work anymore. So getting out of that comfort zone. And so for me, zone number 3, for lack of better words, we call it a chaos zone. And there's nobody who manages chaos better than you, Gary. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and so anytime you step into a new direction, a new goal, a new promise, there what you kind of get smacked with in the face is chaos,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a space between where you're going and where you are.
Yeah.
Anytime you go somewhere new, if you're gonna climb Mount Everest, the first thing that smacks you in the face is holy is that's high. Like, how am I gonna do that? Right?
Yeah.
How right? And so in you trying to figure that out, it's gonna feel chaotic. It's gonna feel out of control. It's gonna feel unsure and all the things. That's the space that we're trying to avoid. That's the space that your ego wants to avoid, because when it's in that space, it can't predict, it can't control. And yet, that is where the space, that is the only
Yeah.
space as human beings where we grow.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only space where new things come from, new solutions, new ideas, innovations, creativity. That's the only space where that happens, because it's that tension, that friction that gets created by that chaos that forces the innovation to come out, right? The race. I always use the analogy of making a cake. If to make the cake, you need really great ingredients,
Yeah.
you need really great tools. What mostly we try to, the ingredients is us, it's what we bring, it's our expertise, our history, our training, our the ideas, the way that we do, our secret sauce, right? And then we have all the tools, we have the microphones and the computers and all the things and the softwares and the AI. When we want to improve the recipe, what do? We try to improve the ingredients. Oh, let me get
Yeah.
more training. Let me get more certification. Let me sign up for this course. Let me learn something. Let me add more letters and more titles to my degree. So then when you introduce yourself, there's 17 letters behind you, because you're it's like
True. So true.
it's not enough, right? You got to keep
Mhm.
increasing you. Or we do the tools. We do the, let me buy the equipment, let me sign up for the new AI tool. Oh, now there's a
Mhm.
new AI tool. Now there's this, and we keep buying the software and we keep blah, blah, blah. If you don't raise the temperature in the oven, the cake is not going to rise. It doesn't matter how good the tools are. It doesn't matter how good the quality ingredients are. You need to put it in the oven, and you got to raise the temperature, and you got to leave it in there. Right? It's got to
Mhm.
cook. And the same is true for us.
I
If
love
we
that.
will not cook, if we don't have that pressure, if we don't have the heat, that is the only thing that makes us rise to the occasion. So that chaos state that my friend Christian is talking about here is that state of uncertainty of, now here's what needs to happen. We have to learn how to lean into it. We have to
Yeah.
learn how to breathe into it. We have to learn how to support ourselves, have community to support us, have colleagues like Christian or myself who can talk it out with you and support you. That's where you get coaching. That's where you,
Yeah.
whatever you need to support you in being in that chaos state so that the cake can rise, so that you can rise.
Um,
Right?
I,
If you
I
if we avoid that, if we just run out, if we try to make it comfortable, you never get the rise.
Mhm.
Right? You were gonna say something, Christian?
No, no, it's so true. I mean, when you speak to that, it's for me, it's so clear. And when I look back, it wasn't, because for me, I was stuck in, I don't sure what we call that zone, but I was stuck in that zone where I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to reach out to. And having that person, and for me, you are it, having that person which takes you by the arm and say, hey, let's do this together, for me it's huge. And for me, it kind of brings me back on, our book course. I didn't, you probably know the story, but let me tell you this. We started this now 6 years ago, and we did the first go around 100% on, hey, this is what you need to do. We figured it out on our own. This is what you need to do, and this is how you follow to get where you need to go. So people doing this, but we realized we had only a 40% success rate. So for us, we kind of went back and said, that's not enough. How come not more people doing what we ask them to do? So we found out how to tweak it. And what we do in the beginning of the class, it's that the little fine line is what motivates you. We call it the success formula. And then is why you really do what you do. Because what you just talked about is that comfort zone, or chaos, whatever you want to call it. If you're not stretching beyond where it's safe, you can leap without a parachute. And for me, that's that side of when people write a book. And for me, we developed class number one where we can just go super deep on why you want to write a book. What is the final outcome of the book? Because the book I'm writing for somebody who I want to bring into a high ticket program, or if I want to promote my program, or if I want to promote a business, or if I want to find somebody to become an investor in me. It's so different than the book I would write if I tell a story. And so for me, I can see the people which come into class number one totally confused, leaving class number one, where they said, this made so much sense. I am so clear what I want to do. For me, that's just absolutely huge. Talk all the time, because if you stuck there, I let's compare it with an athletic training. Muscle growth is happening by stretch, not by rest. It's really really simple. And also, hey, if you don't feel that flutter, whatever you want to call it, in your chest, if you don't feel it
Mhm.
when you put or hit publish on your book, or if you quote somebody the real price, for me is absolutely critical. And for us, when we help people write the book, that's just exactly what you just talked about. We actually, I never really put this together until we just spoke. We bringing people from comfort zone, because the comfort zone is that I want to
100%.
write about. Yeah, but I don't want to write about because I'm afraid of what people are going to think of me. You
Yeah.
know, uh, Gary looks at me as a chef, and I write a book about something else. Gary's going to, what Gary's going to say? Holy shit. I didn't know there was so much more to that person. So for me, what you just said, I just put it all together. We actually, in our book course, bring three people through the three steps.
I
And
literally was gonna turn it over to you to have you talk about this because the process of building authority that you coach
yeah,
people through, it's a masterclass in getting out of your comfort zone,
yeah.
you know?
And we find it so often that, I always said, I heard it said, I think it was Tony Robbins who said, if you want to go to the place where the most innovation is, where all of that stuff, but never happens, the cemetery. Because there's books never written, businesses never started, and ideas never shared. It so hit me as he said that. And for me, going through the course, so we have now over 1,000 people went through our book course. And I can see when people come in, they, I don't want to call it a confusion, but they don't know where to start. So for us, we always say people need us in three different places. They need us to get started. They get really super clear why I write the book, because the book, the language, the way I show up for my reader is going to be totally different depending on what I do. The
Yeah.
second people where people need is like you. They need like a you, because we all need somebody who sees in us what we don't see in ourselves. Because there will be a time where you said, how, why do I even write a book? What are people going to think? I don't know that much. This guy knows so much more about it. And then the final thing where people need is what we call the writer's mile. Is all that crap what's going on, and where writer's mile, ISBN numbers, how to license the book, all of the other stuff, where we became really, really good at it. So for me, what you just said is exactly on how to write a book.
Yeah.
And so thank you, by the way, for kind of bringing me full circle, because as you were talking about it, I was like, shit, this is exactly what we teach in our book course.
Yeah.
And
And
so for
and it's
me,
deep, it's
go ahead.
deeper than that, Christian, because if you look, one of the ways that people stay in their comfort zone and is by avoiding full ownership of who they are and what they're capable of.
Yeah,
What do I mean? Have you ever had the experience of people coming to you and sort of giving you feedback that you can do things that you could never even thought you could do? Like, oh my God, you could write a book. Oh my God, you should absolutely have your own podcast. Oh my God, you should be a speaker. Oh my, and you're like, no, no, I could never do that. That's not for me, right? That if that's happening, that is, and your comfort zone might be operationally staying focused in your business and trying to move all the little levers around, but the new person that wants to emerge, one of the things that happened with that with the client, the dance studio,
yeah,
turns, because now we did all this, what emerged from there was, oh, I could actually be teaching other studios how to do this. I've been doing this for 25 years. Oh, I
yeah,
could write a book on, because she was such a genius in creating, I don't know if you paid attention. I mean, you've got two girls, so you may know a little bit about this, but the dance mom world and the dance school world can be really competitive and toxic and nasty. And but she was such a genius at creating a beautiful culture where all the girls supported each other no matter who got the solo, no matter, and it was like,
mhm,
just she had a real knack for this. I was like, you got to document this, you got to put this in a book, you got to teach other people how to do this, like, and that, now that she had the space, it allowed her to focus on building her authority,
mhm,
right? And building her authority now allows her to amplify her impact, which is going to come back and grow her business because now she's getting out there and doing that thing. So this journey that you take entrepreneurs to, it's powerful because the process of having to articulate your why, your message, who you're speaking to, all of those things are going to stretch you.
yeah,
They're going to
yeah,
push you outside of your comfort zone, right? Putting your, designing the cover, putting your face out there, putting all of those things are going to really push you now
yeah,
to step into a bigger version of yourself. And having someone like Christian who can hold you by the hand, create safety for you while you're leaping off a building. That's what I was talking about earlier. It doesn't have to look like, it can look like, okay, grab my hand, Christian, let's do this together, right? And then we're gonna jump, but but here's what I know: how to drive the parachute,
yeah,
right? So you're buckled in and you're freaking out, but Christian knows how to drive the parachute so that you land in the field that you need to land in, with a book that's gonna
Almost,
work.
yeah, almost, or pretty close to where we want, because it's, I absolutely, by the way, Gary, I absolutely love that. And thank you for that. Because for me, let me break it and make it really simple for the people listening in. And if you listen that far, is what Gary and I are telling you this is you need to create micro stress, because that's what triggers focus. It triggers creativity. It triggers problem solving. If you don't have this within you, you're coasting, and that's what we want to avoid. And we constantly talk about this. And there was one thing, and I don't think I ever told you this, Gary. So we have this podcast, and for me, I always write in what are 5 or 6 things I learned. And that's when we push out a podcast, I write it. There was something you said. I so kind of live into it. And I think I learned from every single person who comes on our podcast. But the amazing thing was, you always said, if things go really smooth all the time, you're really good in hiding what's really going on. And I totally missed that. And over the years or over the weeks, I'm thinking back of the years, because over the years I was so good in hiding things. So Gary, you are spot on. And for me, is creating that little micro stress, because now in the journal, and we created a journal on this. I will update our journal because that needs to become part of it, because that I don't know what else to call it. I call it micro stress. But
I
that
love
little
that. When you said that, I was like, "Oh, that's good.
that
I'm
little
gonna write
space,
that down."
but we talk about it, is that little thing which triggers that extra focus, which triggers that extra creativity, which triggers that extra problem solving, because chronic comfort erodes ambition. I honestly believe that.
Yeah,
And for me, the reason was so looking forward having this conversation, because the discomfort sometimes just shows up and we think it's stress. It's actually not. Okay. Or sometimes we live in this comfort zone and things are amazing. Things look great. And something comes in and it totally, catches us off guard. So for me, what I really want to bring home to our listeners is that simple thing. Live in that little space, because that's where you're most aware. This is where you're really creating. And I honestly believe in that little space is where real creativity happens. And we all need that. And we need to intentionally infuse this in what we do on a daily basis in order to get there. Because for me, too, if I don't, I coast. And then I think of Gary, because Gary keeps telling me we got to kill comfort. And you are so true with that. And it's so, and for me, I was so looking forward to this episode and talking about this, because there was the little things you're saying now where I have these conversation, it kind of comes full circle. And for me, Gary, that's why we love you. Okay. And I also hate you because
I
you're
love
better
you.
looking than me.
Shut
You're
up.
so good at this. And to everybody out there, if you haven't gone to GaryMontalvo.com, run there, because when you get that little private session with him, he's amazingly good in breaking down very complex things. And that's what I absolutely love about you. Second thing is, he is above average good looking. I hate this about him. And I know it. I hate it. Everybody else hates it about him. And then the other thing is, what I love about it is all of the things you teach comes from experience. It's not something you read about or,
Oh yeah.
oh, this is thing. You lived it. And for me, every time you talk about it, it so resonates with me, and it kind of brings in all of the other things we just talked about. And as we talked about discomfort, I was like, that's really what we do with people when they write a book. We want to get them out of
100%.
their comfort zone, because there's this thing, it's an 8-week program. So to anybody who doesn't know, we have this 8-week program because there's 6 things you need to do in order to get a book done. And some of them takes a little more time, so we have 2 weeks in between. So there's 8 weeks. And I can tell you, when week 5 and 6 comes, all of the go-getters, you can see it when they come onto the calls because they stressed out. I was like, only have 2 more weeks to go. I only have two. It's just an arbitrary number. We just put this out there because that's what the program is. If it takes a week longer, it doesn't really matter. But it also drives some of the other ones. We had somebody write a book in 32 days. I can't even do it, you know? And so
Remarkable.
we have somebody in 52 days. We have somebody currently who wants to beat the 32-day, benchmark. And it's crazy. I don't even know how you do this. And his writing is absolutely amazing. And so for me, that's when Gary, as you talked about the stuff, all in my head, it was like, oh, I need to teach my book classes about these three comforts because when they come in, the comfort zone is all about reflection. You call it recharge, reflection, and regroup. Love that. Love that. But
Yeah.
then we need to move into the courage zone where we start to stretch a little bit, where we start taking risk, where we confront zone one. That's comfort. And then there's the chaos zone. You talk so eloquently about it. Where's real innovation happens, where experiments happens, where you embrace uncertainty, because that's where real growth happens. And that's honestly what this conversation is all about. Why didn't you just say that? You should have come on and say, okay, it's really simple. It's this little thing. Okay, you have these three zones.
You want
This
your
is
life to be in chaos.
you want to kill
Goodbye.
comfort.
Send me a check.
That is so messed up.
You want your life to be in chaos.
That's just so wrong. But so the amazing thing, and I hope we have over on YouTube, we have a few people staying the whole time, and I've been chatting back and forth with them. And yeah, I also agree with them. Gary is amazing. And when you have these conversations, it hurts me that didn't say I was great. Okay, that's just kind of hurtful. Okay, I don't like that. So, but we always joke the reason we have written create on here because we create in conversation. We need somebody we can converse with. We need somebody we can have an honest conversation with, and we need somebody who sees in us what we don't see in ourselves. And there's nobody better than Gary Montalvo. And
Sir, I'm gonna have to hire you for my PR team.
no, I sincerely mean it, and I'm
Thank
so
you. No, I
looking
appreciate
forward
that.
to
That
doing
means
this.
a lot to me, brother. I appreciate it, and it's an honor to partner up with you. I think what you do for your clients is remarkable. And listen, writing a
Yeah.
book and getting your intimate thoughts, your intimate intellectual property out into the world is one of the most vulnerable things you can do.
Hmm.
And we're talking about the real thing, okay? Obviously,
Yeah.
people are going into like AI and spitting out all kinds of crap. We're
Yeah.
talking about the actual process of systemizing and you know documenting and explaining your intellectual property and
Hmm.
that you have these systems in place to help people do that when it's the most probably one of the most vulnerable and one of the biggest risks that they can be taking and you do it in 8 weeks and it's just brilliant. So I think my version, so for many of you listening, my
Hmm.
version of going up on stage and singing at the Cotton Club is going to be you actually committing to doing the book that you've been thinking about and considering for how many years you've been thinking about and considering it, right? Create something to stretch you out of your comfort zone. For many of you, it's going to be writing a book. For many of you, it's going to be, hey, it's time for me to get that coach that I've been wanting to. For many of you, it's just going to be, let me sign up for that yoga class that I've been wanting to.
Yeah.
Like, whatever it is, as we wrap this
Totally
up,
okay.
what are the
Totally
ways
okay.
that you're
Hmm.
going to stretch yourself and make sure that you're stretching yourself not like once, but as a
Hmm.
way of living life, as a consistent way of you growing and making sure that there is that you're just stretching yourself.
Hmm. I
Mm.
absolutely love that. And what I want the listeners to understand, the reason we having this conversation, and I want you to really think about it, it's not a lack of talent, it's not a lack of resources, it's not a lack of even competition. Okay, it's as simple as that. You have one decision away to have a total different outcome in your life and your career, and it's something you've been circling around. It's that simple. And for me, if I really peel it back, and it was so clear, there's two decisions I need to make today, which I've been kind of circling around last week, and you are so spot on. And that's where real growth happens. And with that, I want to say thanks for being here today. And also thanks for giving so freely of your insights and all the things you get at. So Gary, if anybody wants to know more about you and maybe get that free session of you, where do they go?
Yeah, you can visit me at GaryMontalvo.com. You can also email me at Gary@GaryMontalvo.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me anywhere. I'm very findable. I'm very Googleable.
I know, really don't know about that. I like that. Yes, he
Very
is.
Googleable.
Yeah, and when you see his podcast picture come up, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That is such a fucking good picture. Okay, I have it
Thank
up just
you.
to say I hate Gary. I really, really dislike him. That picture alone, I was like, now I know why I dislike him. He's so damn good looking. And the end of
Good
the day,
lighting. Just good lighting.
and I want to say to our listeners, thanks for being here on session 2 of 4. And
And how can
if
they find you, Christian?
it's simple, you just DM me below and say, "Hey, Christian, this was amazing. I want to know where Gary lives. I give you the address. I give you everything. Um, I want to know how we can get a hold of you. We are here for you." And hopefully that made you think and you realize that sometimes we need to get out of our comfort zone because, and then I'm quoting the one and only Gary Montalvo, we need to kill comfort. And with that, thanks for everybody for being here. We see you next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And in the meantime, share this below with somebody you feel who can learn from this conversation or needs to hear about this conversation. Also, write us below what struck really with you. What is your comfort zone? And what did you do to get out of it? And with that, I want to say thanks, everybody.